Hi everybody, my name is Randy. We're in the kitchen here at Solare, ready to start a wonderful Solare Live session. And this is with Brian. Connie, who's doing our video today, why don't you zoom on Brian for just a minute.
Hello.
Hey guys.
How are you?
Welcome. I'm doing great. So happy to have you here. So we're getting right into it. Perfect. Let's go. So welcome today. Today I'm going to be demonstrating how to make pizza dough. We're going to be starting from raw ingredients going all the way up. And it's going to be kind of a power session in the sense of I have about 1 hour to show you guys stuff that takes 3, 12, I don't know, depends on how long you let your dough rest. Getting things started. We're going to be cooking pizza in about 45 minutes. So if I was at home preparing a pizza for lunch, like we're going to be doing in about 45 minutes, come right this way. We're going to be popping in our oven, my baking steel. Okay, right now I have a nice giant big commercial oven. It's got the fans in there, so everything's gonna get going really nice. But at home, I would pop your oven on 550, put it on the top shelf, and give it about 45 minutes to get warm. Okay, so I have my oven as hot as I can go. I have my fan on high, and I'm just gonna let this thing roast for a good amount of time. All right, so now that we're coming back here, I'm gonna get to the dough part. I'm gonna dive right in, and just after this quick interruption and flow, not interruption.
Oh yeah, no problem. Hey, we wanted to give the attention to Brian right away because he wanted to make sure that we got the oven going, get the pizza stone ready. I just wanted to welcome you one more time to our 5th edition of Solare Live. Thanks to everybody who's been participating. We really absolutely appreciate the love and the support that we've been getting. Just to echo one more time, we've been very healthy and safe here at Solare. We're practicing social distancing. As you may know, this is my son, Brian. Brian and I and his brother, my other son, Tommy, started the restaurant a little over 7 years ago. And it's really been a wonderful journey ever since. But even Brian and I, we try to make sure we maintain good social distancing. He has an amazing daughter. We just want to make sure we keep everybody here healthy, keep you healthy, and I believe you know that at this point, but I just wanted to reinforce that again. So today what we're doing is we're bringing Solare into the home. Many of you know we make great pizza. We've won awards with our pizza. Brian has been our Master Pizza Chef from the very beginning. But today we're going to show you what it would be like to make pizza in your own house. So we have a great pizza oven here at the restaurant. Brian's not going to use that. We're actually going to use our other oven that we use for breads and some meat dishes and other foods, because that's the kind of oven that you have in your own home. Brian also has a wood-fired mobile pizza oven that hooks up to the back of his pickup truck, and that's something that we can do for catering, corporate events, picnics, parties, so make sure that you're aware of that as well. Right now it's a little bit after 10:30 on Saturday morning. Solare as a restaurant opens at noon. We would be delighted to do to-go and curbside for you starting today at noon. We also have dinner. Any dish we have on our menu is available starting at noon, and we're open until 8 o'clock tonight. I'll mention this again in a little bit, but if you mention that you watched our pizza cooking class with Brian, you get $2 off any pizza you order today or tomorrow. And remember, any of those orders can come with a bottle of wine, or his brother Tommy made some amazing craft cocktails to go. Enough of Randy, back to the pizza chef. Take it away.
Welcome back, welcome back. So, diving right into it, if you want to zoom in right here, I have sort of the recipe I'm following today. The key highlights, this is going to make about 4 8-inch pizzas. They're about 7 ounces or 200 grams. I like to measure everything in metric, so I'm using grams. Grams all the case here. So we got 300 grams of water we're going to measure out today, 5 grams instant yeast. If you want to zoom over here, I got the instant yeast already done. This is actually not instant, the active dry yeast. Main difference to highlight is just that active dry yeast is just a little bit more granulated, and it's going to take a minute to sort of get itself all started. So starting off with that, speaking of, let's get our water poured. I'm going to measure our water right here. I like to always measure outside of my main mixing container just in case something happens. So I'm just going to get my 300 grams.
Just to jump in, Brian's amazing wife Elisa just joined, home with my granddaughter and his daughter. So, hey Elisa, how are you? Oh, we have Alistair from Montreal. We have people coming in from Montreal. He says he's joining along making a pizza in Montreal. That's awesome.
5 grams.
Hey Alistair, hey, get over I hope you recover well from your injury. We love you.
All right, guys, so I just added the 5 grams that I spoke about a minute ago of that active yeast, active dry yeast. I'm putting it right in my KitchenAid mixer. Doesn't have to be this way. You can easily use a mixing bowl and get the process started. The active dry yeast, because it is more granulated, just takes a few minutes to sort of get going. That's sort of always the recommended. There's definitely the moments where I just throw this right in and go for it. I don't see a big difference, but when doing it right, just try and do it right. So we got it all mixed in the bowl. We're getting it started right now. I'm gonna measure next is our flour. So I got our measuring thing on. I'm gonna zero it out. Right now we're using 00 flour. So there's a different varieties that we use here at the restaurant. I really like Petra. I like Caputo. We have Cinque Stigoni. All Italian brands that we've used. I've used intermixed and just to formulate the recipe great. But the truth is, at home you can use any type of general purpose flour or even a bread flour. All will be useful. It's just going to really change the complexity of the pizza as it goes through the process. So 00 comes out real nice and thin, and it's just a real soft flour. It's been 00 defining. Let me get this measured.
And Mag Loves Food, thanks for joining. Giacomo, good morning. Kathy asks, Brian, how warm was your water that you put in?
Great question. My room water today is lukewarm. I'm not in a rush to get this going. I sort of, with the Power of Cooking class, I've already made the dough that we're going to be dividing. Excuse me, all this talking. If I could get the glass of water, I'm losing my voice.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Okay.
Just so everybody knows, Brian he got here, if you saw in my email, he got here around 7 o'clock in the morning, has been prepping, making sure everything's all set. He loves doing these cooking classes. Once this situation's over, you'll have to join us in the restaurant. We also do, it's really a kind of a fun corporate building thing. We have a lot of companies come in and they do pizza making with their staff. And it's just a lot of fun to do. Back to you, Brian.
Yeah, back to the water temperature. So the temperature of the water right now is probably lukewarm. It's maybe around 80 degrees. If I'm looking, temperature for dough making is crucial to the whole process. But this is sort of a basic class, so we're just going to make a basic dough. And I didn't really want to focus too much on that. But definitely in the future, we're going to be doing other classes and other Solare Lives. And I can explain more in detail about some of the complexities of temperature, using mother yeast, some of those other great things. What I am going to be doing now, I have my flour measured. The only other ingredient we're adding is salt. I have 20 grams of salt pre-measured here. Toss that right on in. Since our yeast and everything's already going, we are going to just be slowly incorporating this in.
I want to welcome Becky. Becky, take good care of your brother. Also, we have the Barley Man again from Escondido. He asked Brian, 00 flour is great, but how does that translate to grocery store flour? Go to Vons or whatever, what would you get there instead?
If they sell a bread flour, I'd get a bread flour. I want to have the number be as low as possible. 00 defines the stone. So in our examples, we use stone ground flours. So these have giant stones, keep the temperature very low, and 00 defines it as pressing it all the way against it. As you get a larger grain, you'll see that it goes higher up in number. So a number 9 is processed very
Coarsely?
Coarsely,
Yeah.
Thank you, as opposed to finely. Grosso is wide or coarse, and then fino being nice and fine. And so we use a lot of our flour is very fine here, 00 being the most fine.
If we could jump in, just one more quick question, and one is asked is, they don't have a mixer, no mixer in their home. What do they do then?
You're using a bowl, you get your hand in there, and you just start mixing it up. You'll see it's the same process, it's a lot messier. Before working here in the restaurant, I was a second grade teacher, so when we do our classes here at the restaurant, we don't use a KitchenAid mixer. We get our hands in there, we get our hands dirty. But but it's really not too different than what you see me doing now. We're slowly incorporating the flour. You're using your hands to go through and fold it. The main technique is folding it. So when you see people kneading dough, which I'll demonstrate more as the dough develops and we get our ingredients incorporated.
Yeah, if you, like Brian said, just to reinforce that, if you were to take one of his classes here, no one uses a mixer. The mixer is kind of a convenience for this class. We want to keep the class a little bit shorter because it's online. But if you do the class with him, like you said, it's just everything by hand. It really doesn't take long and it's a lot of fun. Reminds you of your days with like Play-Doh. And Deborah, welcome back.
Awesome. So now we're letting this thing mix up. I have a timer right here. I'm just going to give it about 5 minutes. Woo, nice and loud. I really am just letting this stuff go. While that's mixing, I'm going to be starting to prepare the space for the next stage. Will be where we ball the dough. And so what I have is a nice pan. I'm going to be getting this with some spray oil and prepping it for once this is all mixed up.
Hey Brian, Chef Brian, we have Becky that's asked, hey, I missed the very beginning, sorry. Can you repeat the ingredients that you've already got in there so far? So for people that weren't able to join right on the dot.
Fantastic, yeah, I have this printout right here. So we have 300 grams of water, basically room temperature, a little bit warmer, lukewarm, 80, 85 degrees. I used 5 grams of, it says instant yeast, but actually the one we have right today is an active dry yeast. Small difference in just that the active dry yeast just needs a few minutes to bloom beforehand as opposed to an instant yeast that you can just sort of mix right into the flour. We're using 500 grams of 00 flour, which I'm using the Caputo today. And we mixed in 20 grams of sea salt. We have some Italian sea salt we use here at the restaurant.
Hey Rico, thanks for joining as well. And Karen and Mark, thanks for coming back. Great supporters of the restaurant. We miss seeing you in person, like seeing you this way. And Dave, our wine drinking CPA friend, you said you missed the amount of flour. Hopefully you saw it with what Brian just went through. Keep the questions coming. Good to see you, Mike L617.
Awesome. So we're going to be letting this mix up. Let me see what I can talk about for a quick second while this is mixing. We have another 3 minutes or so in the mixer, just to let that guy kind of spin around. What we can discuss a little bit is sort of the difference in our flours. So these two flours specifically are 00. Okay, Caputo is probably by far the most known worldwide, used at most pizzerias, or it's definitely the most popular, so to speak. Cinque Stagone is another great brand that is right up there. These guys are sort of the heavyweights of what's commercially used. Petra is less known. They do much more with breads, but they do great flours for pizza as well. This one specifically is number 1. So if you look, we have these ones are much more sort of fine. And then if we go over to this guy, it's a little bit coarser. You can kind of see I don't know how well it comes through to you guys, but it's got a little bit more of the grain in there. You can see some more freckling. So those are the brands we use right there for flour. We do use some semolina. I wanted to just demonstrate the semolina we use for finishing, so we'll touch on this a little bit later. But it's a super fancy, they call it, extra fancy. It really just means that they sort of 00 the semolina. And semolina is going to be sort of the germ. It's used much more in a pasta. It's coarse. It's not going to be as soft as sort of the flour of a 00. This is going to be just the germ that they separate from the husk. And it's much more coarse. It's much more like a cornmeal. This is sort of a semolina number 1, so it's obviously been processed to the 1 setting. Much more fine, or much more coarse and granulated as opposed to, say, the number 1 of the Petra. All right, I think we're coming up.
Can we ask one question came from your viewers? Gluten-free. Just spend a few minutes on gluten-free. I know that could be a whole topic in and of itself.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely can. It has a similar process. You're obviously going to be using a mixer or mixing by hand. More difficult to mix by hand with gluten-free. Basically, we here at the restaurant, we have a recipe that we formulated. The brand that we're using right now is it's the Cinque Stagone, so the 5 Stagone, gluten-free. So we use this product. It's great. It doesn't have a lot of ingredients in it, which I really like. It's sort of simple in its ingredient list. With the right steps and the process of doing it, it turns out some really good gluten-free doughs. But we use this product. We use our olive oil. We use our salts. And using this as the flour, it's just a great combination. So if you were to use a recipe, which we can share with you guys on this, we'd be using the cinque stagoni. The reason that this is so nice is it's got this, so I've tried a lot of different recipes. Some come out really biscuity, some come out really like cardboard. This one, it just comes out nice, it comes out fluffy. It's got, potato starch, it's got vegetable fibers, rice, flax, insulin, salt, peas, sugar, millet flour. It's really all things that we can comprehend, understand, and so it's a nice product. There's no eggs, there's no, I'm trying to think of other things, dairy free, there's no milk. So I really like this product. It's solid in what I'm looking to achieve. So our timer went off, our dough's been spinning. One thing you'll notice is the dough has basically come together. It was kind of bouncing around and it's starting to get a little smoother on the edges. This to me says that we're getting there. And I'm gonna spend the next few minutes mixing by hand and going through the different techniques on mixing the dough by hand. So we'll pull it off our hook. I'm gonna place it down on the table over here. If the dough comes out, and I got a tickle in my throat. All right, if the dough comes out wet, or you can always add more flour. But in this case, our dough is about a 60% ratio, which is, as you can see, is it's pretty stiff. It's not a problem. It's gonna stick to the table a little bit because I have a wood table. But my main fold over is I want to take the dough, pull it out, push it back down. That's my technique. I'm doing that again and again. With dough that has sort of this nice, sort of, it's like a cream cheese sort of feel, maybe a little bit stronger than that. You don't have to overwork it. I'm going nice and easy. Just massaging the dough into the table. If I have other doughs that were more wet, like I use higher hydration sometimes, 70 or 80%, you can actually take the dough, you fold it in the middle, and you'll slap it down, and you'll go that way. But it doesn't work the same when the dough is so dry. So we're just going to keep massaging it the way I was before.
Now, Brian, one thing you taught me was how you use it with your knuckles. I know you kind of showed that, but maybe just highlight that, because when you taught me that, it made all the difference.
Yeah, I'm just pulling up. I get a little bit under my fingers, pull it back. I use my front of my knuckles to kind of just massage it in, and I'm going to rotate around. And like I said, this is doesn't have to be super hard. You can get out your frustration, but it's nice dough. It's relaxed. If you're using say all-purpose flour from the grocery store, it won't excuse me, it won't have this sort of feel. It'll be a little bit coarser. You might need to add more water through the process, and you're just misting. If you're adding water, you're just misting. Hopefully you don't have to do that. When you're during the mixing process, you would have noticed that. So anyways, we have our dough. It's been gently massaged. It's looking pretty good. It's gonna need some time to warm up, but you can kind of see there's some gluten development happening right now. As it warms up, it'll get better and better.
Hey Brian, let me just jump in. I want to thank Jeremy up in San Francisco for joining. Jeremy, man, that's great that you're joining. And Eva Blue, oh my gosh, Eva, give us feedback on how we're doing. She's a amazing photographer, digital media person, absolutely incredible. And then we have a question for you, Brian. What flour ratio for a calzone? Does anything change if we're talking a calzone?
No, the biggest thing that would change, I mean, we make calzones here at Solare. It's not on the menu currently, but we've definitely done them in the past. And we usually take our same pizza dough and we just open them up all the way. You can use a rolling pin, but you take the exact same dough that we're gonna make today and you just roll it straight out, throw it in the oven, it'll come out awesome. Not a lot of differences, I think, in the hydration or anything like that. There are definitely recipes out there for strombolis and how they set the dough up to be a little bit flakier. But as far as for a calzone, you can do this exact same dough that we're doing today.
That is awesome. We have our good friend Tucker joined right here in San Diego. Wonderful winemaker, father, good friend. Thanks, Tucker, for joining. And then also, just to do a plug for them, and the next time you come to Solare, you can try some, is we have our friends from Sierra Norte Whiskey. For those of you who love a good whiskey, these guys make their whiskey, they distill it in Oaxaca, Mexico. So a great whiskey from Oaxaca. As you may or may not know, corn originated natively in Mexico, way back when. So the heirloom corns are there. They have a great black heirloom corn. And so Sierra Norte whiskey, I don't know how easy it is to find, but if you want to try something different, that's delicious. Sierra Norte whiskey. Thanks, guys, for joining.
All right, guys, so let me talk about what was just happening. I basically put some spray oil. We just have some premium 3-brand oil. Spray it on down. You can easily use olive oil or something else. I like spray oil because it is thin and it puts just a layer on there. When I use the olive oil, sometimes it gets too much, heavy hand, and you're just dealing with the oil throughout the process. But that can lead to a different pizza, and if you really like that, I recommend doing it. That's the beauty of pizza dough, is you really can adjust it to be exactly what you want. I really like pizza dough because it is so basic. One of the things I talk about in the class that I teach here at the restaurant is my class is really about empowerment. When you guys want to make some food, you want to have something simple, you can play with bread. It's not complicated. All the ingredients we just threw out are basic. You can find them at the grocery store, and they're just fun. It's enjoyable. I like to do that. You are creating something and sort of giving life to it because it is living. So the next step of the phase is actually to then take our dough that's had about an hour and a half to rise.
So that was a question. They may have missed it. How long do you let the dough rest? That was the question. It just came in.
Yeah. So we're going to let it rest about an hour. It depends on where. So if I put this dough right next to my oven, it's going to probably rest only about 30 minutes to 45 minutes because it's really hot over there. But if I'm going to keep it in a cold room, which I let this dough rest for an hour and 20 minutes, it hasn't risen too much. And so I probably could have put it in a warmer space, but it doesn't change too much. The yeast is still developing. Everything's happening behind the scenes. So you're still going to have a great product.
Fabulous. And a couple of comments that everybody loves the fact, and just so everybody knows, Brian's like a pizza professor or scientist. You should see his lab notebooks, the note-taking he does. Everything is documented. Everything is super, super clean. So he's kind of the clean freak, which we all love, and note-taking professor of all things dough and fermentation and grains. So yeah, if you need anything after this broadcast, just call us up. Brian will help you with those questions.
Yep, exactly. And so our next step is, so we've created our baby. It's resting, right? Our dough baby is resting. We're gonna let him rest at least 30 minutes to an hour, if not longer. We have one here, got to rest an hour and a half.
Maybe now's a good time to talk about getting dough balls for people that don't want to go through all this. What does that mean if they want to get some dough balls from us? Basically meaning just getting what you have in your hand.
Yeah, basically, well, it's gonna be more like this. If I could squeeze by 1 second. I have this one right here that that I'm gonna be using at the next half of our class. But these are doughs I created yesterday, and so you can easily buy these pre-made, $4 each. Give us a day's notice. But even, I mean, the truth is, if you're looking for 4 and you come on in or you call us up, we can get them in about 30 minutes. We're usually pretty well stocked. I'm here, you see me, I'm making the dough each day, so we have a good amount available. But like I said, if you're having a party or you're stocking up for a few days and you want to eat pizzas with the family, give us a day's notice and we can get them pre-made.
Yeah. If you mention you watch Brian on this pizza broadcast, the dough balls I think are $4, right, Brian?
That's correct.
So you get one of those dough balls for $4. Obviously, you're going to miss the fun of this initial step, but boy, it sure is convenient. And I know that Elisa's watching, but we also have a little bit of feedback here that he is a pizza professor and a cute one too. So I don't know. I'll leave it at that.
Well, thank you out there, Instagram world.
Christina out there agrees. Becky in Montreal agrees. We have another person from Montreal.
You guys make me smile.
Yep, $4. That's it for the dough ball. All you have to do is call us up, mention that you watched us here. Come on in. We can deliver it to your car curbside.
And so, while we were talking, I sort of went from in the bowl to now in a row. You can do that just about any way you want. I do this just because it's going to help me measure. I'm assuming you're at home. You're not always going to have a scale. Maybe you threw this together a little bit haphazardly. I have a scale, so I measure things out kind of precisely. 200 grams is what I'd make them. But if you don't, you can divide it into this. You're going to cut it into 4s. All right, and then we're going to talk about balling it up. If you don't have this, you can use a knife. This is just a pizza spatula. And you can feel it too, like this one is probably 50 to 100 grams heavier than this one. So I'm actually going to then take this, trim it up a little bit, and you can feel them when you pick them up. They're all about the same right now. So the next stage is balling the dough. So you've made your dough. We have a dough baby. It's rested. It's now divided. We're now going to work on balling the dough. This step is really basic. It's kind of like riding a bike. Once you get it, it's not hard. But, it's just nice to do it the right way. And it pulls the dough in really well. And it's sort of, if I was to go back to my children's analogy, as I constantly do, you sort of have a baby here, just born. This is sort of like your 7 or 8-year-old, and you're just shaping them. You're getting them, you want them to mature up and be nice and beautiful. The main goal in this stage is to make sure there's no air inside. So I sort of have taught this sort of system, right? So we start off with our dough. We get it a little bit like a hockey puck. We're going to take it, fold our hands over, and then kiss it together. We've now taken our hockey puck and kind of made it a taco. Okay, so I've taken my taco, looking at it sideways. I'm going to do that same thing again. So I now have that. I'm going to make my, almost like a heart. Push my fingers together. And we have our taco again. Turn it sideways. I'm going to do this 4 times. 4 is just sort of the number I've come up with. If you do it more than 4 times, you really, I'm wearing gloves, but if you're doing this at home without gloves on, your hands start to actually take the moisture away. And as you can see, after 4 times, it's got a nice smooth top. You can actually, I don't know how well you can see it, but there's some air bubbles in there. It's developing nicely. The gluten, the yeast, everything's active. So it's going to mature up and bloom out the way we want. If, say, I made this incorrectly, or I didn't really push all the air out, you can get stuff like air bubbles inside. They almost forms like an atrium, and it looks kind of cool. And then when you pop it, though, you realize all that air inside didn't allow there to be any sort of yeast networking. And that networking it does is like the infrastructure of the dough. And so it really, it's a simple step, but it definitely, doing it right equals a good product later on.
So, Ryan, people love what's happening here with your class. They're asking, this is a great idea. Is there a schedule? How often? Yeah, if you just follow us on Instagram or Facebook, you'll see updates all the time on what we're doing with our Solare Live broadcasts. Our actual next one we're going to have is on Monday, and we have a program we're starting called Solare After Dark. And we'll just kind of leave it at that. And it's going to be with me leading it. There's definitely be wine involved. And it's going to be on Monday at 8 o'clock San Diego time. Monday at 8 o'clock, Solare After Dark.
Alrighty, so I'm just finishing up my doughs. You see also at the finish, you can twist it up. You can use your hands. Right, there's several different ways. It really doesn't matter how you get there. Right, just like your kids, there's no one route. But as long as, we all have the goal. We want to make sure there's no air. It's nice, tight, compact. Alright, so there's my 4th time. Just roll it down.
Let's just say after doing this for, 8+ years, Brian has strong hands and strong fingers. I can't even imagine how many dough balls you have made in the last 8 years.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Agreed. And what I did here for just home demonstrations, I grabbed my Pyrex I have at the house. If I was at home doing this, I would be setting the dough up in here. And so I sprayed it. I got it a hit of the spray oil just like we did before. I'm going to kind of spread them out around the sides. And I'm going to wrap it in plastic wrap. And this dough can rest outside for a few hours for sure. Or if you wanted to use this tomorrow or later tonight, you can put it in the refrigerator and let it rest up to 2 days. I think after 2-3 days, you'll start to notice they get really, really pancakey. They're going to spread out. They're not going to have this height to them, and you'll probably get a sourdoughy smell, which doesn't mean they're bad. You can still cook them up and make them maybe a bread or something out of it, but it'll be difficult to open them up and have a pizza. And so, yeah, that's our dough. I'm going to let these rest for a minute. 10.
There he is, the professor, the note taker.
Yeah, right. Getting my days wrong.
There was a question on how to get on your email list. You can sign up with our website, or you can just send an email to us at info@solarolounge.com. So this is info@solarolounge.com. Also, just send us an email if you have any questions on what Chef Brian did, or if you'd like us to email you that recipe that he showed, or any other questions. So info@solarolounge.com, or call us 619-270-9670. And we're starting with takeout starting at 12 p.m. San Diego time, maybe a little bit later for our friends in San Francisco and Montreal.
So what I had here, guys, is actually once this class or this Instagram Live finishes, I'm actually going to be finishing the dough that I started mixing right before the class started. So this has had maybe an hour also to rise. And I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of when I'm making dough here, how I do it just the same as what you guys are at home going to do. I'll set up my scale. Right now, pizzas, yep.
I was going to say, maybe while you're doing all that, for those people that are, gotten inspired, they're like, you know what, I want to do more with flour and dough and salt and yeast and just what would be the initial basics they want to get? They probably don't need to go buy a scale like you have, like you mentioned, but what would be just some of the basics? Like the cutter you have right there is just a great one, and it's inexpensive.
Yeah, something like this is a pizza spatula or a baking spatula, and they cost anywhere from $5 on Amazon. You can go all the way up to like 15. Of course, they go higher. But I think honestly a scale is relatively important. You can get it for $10. Really basic scale. You'll need to have mine goes up to 8 kilos, so that's 16-15 pounds. That's a lot for most people at home. You're not making that much. If you're making this, you just need a small scale. You don't need all these tools. The main one, ingredient wise, would just be having flour that you like, having some yeast. Water comes out of the faucet. You don't have to do too much there. Having salt on hand. Just having, I wouldn't say a fine one. You don't want to have kosher salt, so somewhere in the middle. I think that's what
I think a good plastic wrap, and also one thing I've noticed, even though we've kind of made fun of Chef Brian a little bit for his note taking, just have a Sharpie. Write this stuff down. It's amazing how you think you're going to remember stuff like when you put it in or when you let it sit, and like a half an hour later after you've been running around, you just forget. Just have a Sharpie, plastic wrap, document everything. It's a good habit to get into.
So I don't know if you can see the scale, but basically I'm measuring 275. That is the size of our large pizzas here at the restaurant. So I just quickly measured out 5 pizzas.
So short story, 270 grams, give or take, would represent the dough in the recipe we do here for a large pizza.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So I think your mileage will vary, depends on the recipe, a lot of things, but as a rule of thumb, start with that.
Yep. And as you can see, I showed you guys a really basic entry-level way of balling the dough. It works out really nicely. I do a little bit more steps to it. I sort of roll the dough when I get it on the table afterwards. I also if I get one going, let's see, show off a little bit, I get the other one going. Alright, we'll sit here and we'll ball up multiples. Alright, and we gotta crank through 18 pounds of dough. You find ways to go fast. Alright.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed also that if you are getting the bug to do your own dough and so on, I'm telling you, if you had a little bit of a hard day at work, or your drive home was a little bit stressful, or maybe your family members are not cooperating, find a space in the kitchen, make yourself some dough from scratch. It's very, very therapeutic.
Let me get a tray just to box those up for later. And so, yeah, that's what we're doing here at the restaurant on a daily basis. A little spray oil. Leave my dough here.
Hey, Chef Brian, this is funny. I just have to interrupt. Alistair says, if everybody, for the people that remember the movie Karate Kid, this is like the old wax on, wax off. Wax on, wax off. I love that. Thanks, Alistair.
Awesome. So, we are to the next stage, which will be opening the dough. To do that, I'm going to take dough. Don't need to move. Don't need to move. So we're going to be taking the dough that I had made up yesterday. And we're going to be opening it. What I did... So we have this dough right here. This is somewhat fresh out of the refrigerator. I would say it's between 65 degrees 70. Alright, so it's kind of cool. It's cold. It's cold. That's fine. You don't have to pull this out of the counter and have it sit there for hours and hours before you use it. You can get a fluffier dough. It does change the way it is, but it doesn't. You don't have to. You don't have to. It'll come out with a great product either way. You might notice the nuances, but if you have guests or if you're cooking for your kids, they're gonna love it either way. So to mix it though, what I do at the sort of at the end is I actually take a little bit of our extra fancy durum and I mix it with some of our Caputo flour, and that gives it a little bit of texture. So you get a little bit more texture when the dough is done. It also allows you, when you're working on a wood surface, which we have here at Solare, it's not always going to stick to the dough as much. Our dough today is pretty dry, but sometimes you're working with some wet pizza dough and it can be sticky. So I'm adding just a little bit, it's about 50-50 ratio of that super fancy, or that's very extra fancy durum. Just mixing that right on up so it gives, you can see the difference in the colors, I believe. I don't know how well it comes through on Instagram, but as they mix together, we have that going. All right, I'm gonna sprinkle just a little bit on top of our dough. This is where it's great having a pizza spatula. I don't really want to disturb this. It's like you've done such a great job creating and making your kids grown up just to, come in strong-handed one day. It's not going to make anything better. So basically I'm going to gently come in from the sides using my spatula to get underneath, and I keep that shape. See, I'm working with kind of they would describe as light fingers. Okay? And so I just dropped it in, tapped it out. I mean, there's a little bit of flour on the bottom, there's a little bit on top, but that was it. Okay? Now, on the surface, I'm going to put a little bit more right here. Just, you don't have to go crazy. Put a little bit out there. Alright. This is the challenge for everybody, and so I'm going to walk you through it. I got plenty of dough to practice with, and hopefully you guys on the internet can sort of get it, and hopefully some of you, maybe you have dough already at home. You planned ahead, and you're going to be opening up with me. So here we go. So I'm going to start right in the center, right at the top. As I work my way down, I'm just doing nice light pats. All I'm doing is patting it, okay? I kind of do it for a beginner. Start off with 3 fingers, working my way. If maybe the dough is smaller, you can start off with 2 fingers. Okay? But I've sort of created 3 areas. Alright, you see me going around, but you have the crust, you have sort of this middle space, and you have the bullseye. The bullseye is my safety. I don't use a bullseye anymore, but it's a great tool for someone who's beginning to make sure that when they go to the next step, which is to open the dough more, you're not leaving the center with no dough, so it's thin there. This is like a handicap. All right. So we started it off. I'm gonna rotate this around 90 degrees just to make sure my round shape is sort of as round as I can. It's kind of ovally right now. But once, my goal is to make sure that my hands can get inside there. I'll be honest, it is difficult to do this with gloves. So you're gonna get to see how you sort of try, and then you go to different techniques, because there is no right way. There's you can find lots of ways to get to the same purpose, which is this dough is going to be open. Okay. So right now I sort of pressed it down. I have my handicap there. My favorite technique to do when I have bare hands is to open it up almost like I'm making sand angels or like snow angels. Sand angels. Okay. Sort of angel's wings. Okay. It usually ends up being one more than the other, but what you're doing is that divide where you're stretching, you're opening it up and it stays open. Okay? So if you watch my hands, I'm going to pick a spot, and during that spot you're just going to see me pull it apart and then move it a little bit, pull it apart, move it a little bit, and I'm always sort of stretching this, 11 to 12 o'clock on the window. Okay? So a little bit more just to make sure. Alright, so slow motion, stretch, rotate it a little bit, stretch, rotate it, stretch, rotate. All right, so I think you get the point. Stretch and rotate, stretch and rotate. Gloves, they just slide. I put that semolina on there and my gloves just slide. So what's another technique I can use here at the restaurant? Oh, and so you can see that handicap that I gave, it's right there in the center. And it really allows, but you see the dough's nice and soft. So you can see how that center is. Now, wait, what did I do? Just by demonstrating that to you, I've just made my dough bigger. All right, problem solved. That's one technique. Just hold the dough up in the air. Another technique, you can take your dough. I like to do it so that the top side always stays sort of on my hands. So the top is always up. You avoid getting flour like I just did. So if you keep the top always up, you don't get flour mixed in. So I flip it on. And this way I can just sort of use my hands inside, maybe shake it a little bit, let it hang down, and I can see the different layers. And I'm just rotating my hands around, and you're gonna see this thing will nicely stretch out. All right, maybe you do a little touch up at the bottom. You see when it came down, it was bigger and it came in. That's that gluten. That gluten is working. You want it to be, when you're making your dough and you're mixing, you're developing that gluten, kind of like you're developing your muscle. Okay? If you overdevelop the gluten, your muscle kind of locks, the gluten locks. So this thing, you'll open it up and it'll just shrink back to this big. You'll open it up and it'll shrink back. And that just means that the gluten, maybe you left it in the mixer too long, or you were having a tough day and you just went to town on it. And so, yeah, so our gluten is developed to the right level that I like, and has just a little bit of a spring back, and you get a nice pizza. So that's about a 12-inch pizza you got right there. So,
now, not to put you on the spot,
Yeah.
but we do have, from the peanut gallery, we do have people going, when's Brian going to be tossing it up and spinning it over his head? So I don't think we're putting you on the spot,
Yeah.
but we do have people saying, throw it, throw it.
Yeah, right. All right, we'll do it again. Next one. All right, so I'm going to start over again. We sprinkle a little bit on top. I got my spatula. I want to make sure I keep the shape as much as possible. A little bit of flour underneath.
Hey, I like the idea of the sand angels. Love the sand angels.
Tap it on down. I didn't leave much of a handicap, but you can, I left a little bit there. All right, let's open it up. See, I'm just, yet again, another technique, trying to make these gloves work. This is one way I do it to sort of open the dough up. It's nice, it's soft. This dough is really nice and malleable, has some strength to it. Yet again, flip it over. So what I do when I'm talking with others about throwing dough up in the air, the dough has to be at a certain level, right? You have to kind of have enough. So this is about an 8-inch size, I think, a little bit under. My dough isn't necessarily meant to be thrown, but I do it from time to time. Having aged for a day in the refrigerator, it gets a little bit softer. When advising others, I always say it's not just in the arms, it's in the hips. You gotta get everything into it, all right? And you're gonna be starting off, you can have your knuckles like this, rotate them.
No pressure, Brian.
Yeah, right. But, and it's nice and soft. You're gonna have the nice spin. Woo! I hope you're enjoying. So that, it can be like that. It's not always beautiful. But, what I will say is that you do throw it to get the product. Meaning, the dough is soft. So if you had a dough that was firmer, maybe you're using all-purpose flour, it opens nicely pizza. If I was using it just on the table doing these, you're going to be adding friction. So I might put a hole in my dough. By practicing and throwing them up to have the dough be softer. Okay, so let me do one more. See if I can get my clothes a little better. Here we go. I'm going to do it one more time. This time I'm going to do it sort of restaurant speed.
Hey, if anybody's seeing a pause here and there on the video, I have somebody calling me. Sorry, it's on using my phone for the Instagram live here. So.
All right, so I opened my pizza up pretty quickly. I'm going to go back to tossing it. There we go, nice even. Whoop. All right, guys. And this dough doesn't need too much of a toss. And then we're all set. Alrighty. Next step is now making pizza. Alright, so we're coming down to the end of our program. I wanted to show you guys basically today we're going to be making a Margarita Pizza, sort of the classic. I'm going to be getting the fresh mozzarella right now out of the refrigerator, and then I'll come back and we'll be cutting it up. Alrighty, sorry for the delay.
Brian, is cake flour acceptable versus all-purpose flour?
No, cake flour won't have enough gluten-free. It won't have enough gluten. It's lower on the gluten level. It's more soft. It's more delicate. And being so, it's not going to have the strength to do what I just did with the dough. If you were to throw gluten cake flour dough like we just did, it would basically open up. You'd have holes in it. So basically what you see me doing really quickly right now, I'm getting my fresh cheese. We have some Ovalini right here. This is fresh mozzarella, fior di latte. And so basically I am cubing it in less beautiful cubes. And one of the things with pizzas is you don't want a lot of moisture. So normally here at the restaurant we actually do this a few days in advance. I have some up front. But I wanted to show you that just taking a paper towel, you want to kind of squish that water out of there. Alright? I'm basically just going to be removing as much water if I can. If you have a day's notice, you can actually cut it ahead of time, wrap it in a paper towel, and leave it for the next day. But my goal is to get as much moisture out of there because that water translates to a wet pizza dough.
Barbara in La Jolla agrees that now is the time to open a bottle of wine. She goes, it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Awesome. So let's get our pizza started. I have some basil I got right here. I got some marinara. I got some pizza sauce that I made up earlier. My pizza sauce has a little bit of salt, Italian oregano that comes from the Tuscan hills. All right. And it's not cooked. And with the pizzas we make here at the restaurant, we don't put too much sauce on them. You don't want this to be a thick, like a Papa John's kind of pizza. Ours with that 00 flour, just a little bit softer. Can't handle too much. But you want to make sure you cover everything. One of the things you might see is that I did go on the edges. I like to go to the edge, but I'm never going to go all the way to my table. I got a little bit on the table, but it's not off the pizza. It's definitely a problem if you go off. You're going to need to put some flour because sticky pizza dough burns as well as sticks to everything. All right, so I got some nice fresh basil grabbed earlier today. Margarita, always want to have the best ingredient. Nice fresh basil. And then we got that cheese we just cut up a minute ago. I know you guys are out there, but I am hungry. I'm excited. I got here early this morning making the focaccia bread, so I am ready to eat a great pizza. And the last thing we're gonna need here is some good olive oil. I just realized I didn't grab that. So give me 1 second to get the olive oil.
I hope everybody's enjoying this. I'm going to squeeze by here. So, hi, this is Randy again. Just simply want to let you know that this Instagram Live is going to continue on. As you may or may not know, Instagram Live only lets you go for 60 minutes, and then you have to stop. So when it hits 60 minutes, which is going to be in about 7 minutes or so, what we're going to do is we'll stop the broadcast, we'll start a new one. So on your phone or your iPad, you'll see that the broadcast stopped, and then like 10 seconds or less later, you'll see we're live again. Just go ahead and push the button and we'll be right back. We're not going to go too much longer after that. I just know that Brian wants to show us the final pizzas. Brian's back with the olive oil.
Yep, got some nice olive oil right here. Just put a spreading around. Doesn't have to be crazy either as far as using it. I like just a good amount, just that healthy amount. All right, so here at the restaurant, I got pizza spatulas. I got all sorts of cool tools. Using a cutting board is just fine. It's got a lip, so just keep that in mind, but it's just fine. I'm gonna put some of that flour I had earlier just on top of my cutting board just to make sure it doesn't stick, make sure it's not wet. A little bit more on there. Alrighty. When you have your pizza, you can easily grab it, gently take it over to your cutting board, put it on there as best you can. You can see I made it a little bit big on one side. Just going to stretch our dough over, fix the shape to the cutting board.
That is the power of gluten.
Yeah, right? And as we come over here, another great way to do this is you don't have to slide it into the oven. I can easily open this up, slide it in the oven. Right now, let's just turn that down so we can hear each other. But another great technique I use at home, I feel a little bit safer doing it this way, is I actually will take the steel out. Take the steel out. Put my pizza on it. Okay, and just pick it up and pop it back in. It's a lot safer than throwing it in and burning it. All right, so we're gonna take this off. I'm gonna get myself some new gloves. And we got that one in the oven. I'm gonna set my timer. Turn my pizza thing back on. I'm gonna set my timer for 5 minutes. We got our 5-minute timer. I'm gonna hit start. Basically, yeah, it's gonna take 5 minutes. I'm gonna check on it at 3, I'll be honest. Your first pizza, you should always check it after a few minutes. Hopefully you're making more than just one, and you'll be able to use that same space the same. So let me get rid of these. Throw this all in the trash. There we go. And so let me see here. We have oregano. Can you give me some oregano?
Yeah, believe me, everybody, we are going through boxes and boxes of our gloves here. We change our gloves about every 30 minutes or so, and certainly every time when we touch anything other than the food directly. So Brian just made a switch of gloves, and we're ready to go back into, I'll say, kind of phase 2. We have about 4 more minutes on this section, and then when we go up with Instagram Live number 2, we'll be diving into the actual cooking.
Yeah, definitely. And so I was going to make one more pizza. I got the doughs we already stretched out. These doughs, you saw, they've been sitting here for a minute. They definitely age, so you got to be careful. The longer they sit out, the more they're going to be soft. They're not going to cook, so I'm going to make sure I have lots of flour down below.
Hey, couple questions, Brad, real fast.
Yeah.
Oven temperature that you have that at?
High as can be. 550 if that's the highest. Yeah, as high as it can be.
So 500, 550, whatever your oven can do. There's also a question from Rico. Thoughts on using cornmeal on steel or stone?
Yeah, you can use cornmeal. Cornmeal, polenta, like I use the semolina. They all do the same trick.
Yeah, speaking of polenta, we just had a wonderful Solare Live cooking class where Executive Chef Filippo showed us how to make the world's best polenta, which is also available for the next couple of days. So when you do your to-go order from Solare today, tomorrow, order some polenta. And think of us for your Saturday night or Sunday night meal, or even this afternoon. We'd love to take care of you. I'll mention it briefly at the end, but all of these broadcasts are being recorded. If you go to Solare San Diego on YouTube, you'll see Chef Filippo, you'll see Tommy with Italian cocktails, and you'll see our Italian wine ambassador, Petra, teach us all about Italian wine. Definitely tune in. If you miss it, you'll find us on YouTube, Solare San Diego. Hope you guys are all enjoying it. Brian's getting a few ingredients together.
Yeah, we're right in the tail end. If we want to come over, it looks like we're at 2 minutes left on the oven. So let's go take a look at our oven, see how our pizza's doing in here.
And then probably about 2 minutes, I think, Brian, we'll take a 10-second break while we stop this live and go to the second live.
So I think in this oven, I was able to cook my pizza in about 3 minutes. Beautiful.
Oh, wow. I like it.
So I'm going to go get the next pizza and keep that oven nice and hot. And we'll be cutting this pizza up in just a second.
There was a question, Brian, on was there anything special about it being on the top shelf?
Yeah, you want it in the oven as high up as possible and as hot as possible. The only concern, I would say, I have an electric oven at home, so sometimes when I'm cooking pizzas, usually not pizzas, but if I'm cooking like a focaccia bread or something else, I've actually caught them on fire.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 550 degrees is really hot, and if something's too close, it will burn. But that said, you want it usually about as high up as you can and as hot as you can. Whoa, beautiful pizza fell over. Don't worry, it's all safe.
Nice.
So let's pop this guy in the oven. Like I said, I think my easiest way is putting the gloves on, taking the steel out, popping back in. Last thing I want to do is have to clean this oven up.
Very smooth.
Yep.
You've done this before.
Once or twice. Slide that guy in.
See, for those that are listening, I want to make you very jealous because I'm going to be the one eating that pizza.
Yeah. So we'll turn off our timer. I'm going to change my time now. Changing my time to 3 minutes. And I'm going to go get my pizza cutter, and I'll be right back so we can cut into that pizza.
And everybody, just so you know, Instagram very kindly informed us that we have about 50 seconds left. So we're going to go ahead and stop this Instagram live, and then we're just going to start another one. So you'll just see it drop, just push starting again, and you'll see us right back. Brian's already back, so that was quick, Brian. I don't know how you did that so fast. We're going to go ahead and stop this one. We'll see you in about 5 seconds.
Ireland?
Hey, we're back. Oh, we're back. All right, so so we got a minute and a half left in our pizza dough. We got pizza that just came out of the oven. Pizza dough. Out of the pizza that's cooking. I made just an oregano pizza. Just light, fresh. Really enjoy it. I also have the pizza we finished right up over here. Getting my gloves on. Here we go. So this is the one we just finished. And until that timer goes, we're gonna stay here and get ourselves cutting into that. I really enjoy margarita. It's sort of just the cornerstone of a pizza. It's like this is the most basic, this is the most simple, it's happy, and as you can see, it just looks delicious. So,
Barbara, thanks for coming back. Chef Honcho, thanks for coming back. Barley Man, thank you. Jeremy, thank you.
Can I show people how good it is?
Absolutely. Tiffany works here. Thanks for coming. Wait a second.
Yeah. I like the crust. It's got some nice air in that. If you want to make a thin crust pizza, you just smush all the way to the end. But otherwise, I like having that. It's almost like a breadstick at the end. You have some nice oil, oregano, you can just dip it in. I took a big bite, it was good.
Our good friend Marcos is here. He delivers some of the best wine you're ever going to have on the planet. We have several people saying that, Brian, right now you're just being mean. They really liked it when you were spitting the pizza. They liked you then. They thought you were a cute professor, but right now they're just saying you're just being mean.
Guys, come on in. Order some Solare to go. If you can't have Solare to go, we're going to be doing this again. I can get more complicated. I got lots of little nuances. This was our basic dough. I can teach you more. So let's do it again sometime.
Yep. So any questions? Brian, do you have anything else you want to do on your wrap-up?
I want to get the other pizza out of the oven.
Awesome. Great. So just to let you guys know while Brian's getting that, just want to refresh your memory that if you do want to get the pizza dough balls already made, really saves you a lot of time. You just have to, the only thing you have to do there is just kind of spread the dough out, make it into that perfect circle. The only other thing that you have to do in addition to that is really spin it up in the air the way that Brian did it. I think the key there is using your fists like that. You don't want to use your fingers. If it comes down on your fingers will go through the dough. Even though the gluten is really very elastic, your fingers will go through. So do it like this if you are spinning it. Just so everybody knows, it smells amazing.
Pizza steel, you can use a stone. I like the steel, it's indestructible in my mind, so you know, I feel less worried about it. Stones break, you kind of have to be fragile about it. This is like a 30-pound piece of metal, so cooks up great, as you can see in my oven here at Solare. It can do similar stuff to your oven at home. You get that oven nice and hot, 550, you keep the door closed. You know, send us your photos. Let us see what you're doing at home, yep, and share with us what you're doing. And if it doesn't come out, let's work together to figure out what the hang-up is.
Remind us what you put on that one, Brian.
This was just oregano and olive oil, and marinara, and I keep saying marinara, pizza sauce.
So this would be a great thing to have if you're having a family meal. Just make this almost like an appetizer or just a special bread to go along with everything else. I mean, imagine this with soup and salad. If you had a pizza like this, some of our minestrone soup, a nice salad, you have a perfect meal for 2 people, like for lunch. We could do this for you for lunch today. It'd be a lot of fun. The one thing I like also, send us emails or Brian can explain any of these things to you. But I like, for example, I won't touch it, but I love all these little puffy things. For me, I just love that part of a pizza. Other people don't. Brian knows all the techniques. He loves these little puffy things on the edges. I do too. So he'll teach you how to do that or to do it in ways that are where you don't have that. But there's so many fun things you can do with dough, with yeast, with water, and a little bit of love. And you saw it all here with Brian. Anything else you want to say before we begin the wrap up?
No, you know, I think there's a few things I'd like to say before we wrap everything up. One is my heart is with actually everybody who's not here with me. Today I got here super early. Normally on a Saturday morning, if I'm here at 7:30, I got Luis here in the kitchen with me. He's not here with me now. Denise is normally here. She's not here with us now. Maria. There's the entire Solare family is separated right now, and so that is weighing on me. And so my heart goes out to all of you guys out there, thinking about you guys and missing you. And then the other aspect, I totally forgot my second thing. So I love you guys out there.
Tell them about your wood-fired pizza oven.
Yeah, I mean, I have a trailer that I take around. It's awesome. It cooks up better pizzas than we made here. It's a nice big 7,000-pound trailer, and so it makes me really happy. We go out, we make breads, we make dough, pizza doughs. We do a lot of fun stuff in there. We baked pigs and other stuff in the past. So just a great oven, and it's on wheels, so it's a great oven that goes wherever you want. I think that's all from me at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to doing this again. We can get more complex as we go. I'd be more than willing and happy to get things up in the future and show you guys Mother Yeast about making sandwich bread out of the same stuff. There's a multitude of stuff.
That's great. And then maybe let's head back over here for a little bit of a wrap up. And we want to thank Connie actually for doing this whole video.
Yeah.
Brian, why don't you put the camera down, or the pizza down there, not the camera. So on the wood-fired pizza oven, all I have to say is I'm Brian's father. Obviously I'm not objective here, but we have a amazing pizza oven that we take to your home, your party, whatever. It's 900 degrees. Wood-fired with oak from here in San Diego, 900 degrees. That pizza that Brian put in there that took, say, 2 or 3 minutes in our conventional oven, he puts it in there, it's done in like 1 minute or 1 minute and 15 seconds. So fast. And that's the beauty of a wonderful wood-fired pizza oven, is that heat. And also, I know I'm not being that objective, but you have this guy interacting with your team or your company or your guests at your party. He's the best. And I think he said it when he said he was trained as a second grade teacher, so he knows how to deal with all of us in second grade teacher ways, which at the end of the day, when it comes to pizza, we're all sort of inner second graders. We're going to wrap up. Thank you guys so much. Round of applause for Brian.
Thank you guys.
You always spin the pizza so well, but I was like, okay, now we're on live. No pressure, my son. But you completely rocked it, absolutely.
Right.
You were a little mean eating the pizza in front of everybody. We'll talk about that later.
Make some.
But put your order in to go. We're open at noon today till 8 o'clock. We'd love to do pizza to go for you. Our menu's on our website. We can put in a bottle or two or wine with you. We have great wine here. We are a wine shop. Tommy makes our craft cocktails. You want to add one of his craft cocktails on, we can do all of that to go. And if you want to, Monday, 8 o'clock San Diego time, 11 o'clock everywhere else on the East Coast, would be like the late night show, Solare, After Dark. I'll leave it to your imagination on what's going to happen. So, Connie, once again, thanks. We're signing off. Send us emails, give us a call. We love you.
Bye, guys.